imagine a movie that's updating in real time based on how much you're paying attention. The AI, while you're watching it, knows if your blood pressure is going up or going down, are you getting relaxed, where are your eyes? So that at the beginning of the movie, it was gonna end one way, but really it's just watching you. You're engaging with this, and so all of a sudden it becomes a movie about a husband and wife arguing over a 7-year-old dog. Oh my God. Microsoft have spun up a nuclear power plant. 3 Mile Island is coming back online because Microsoft knows to run their AI, they're gonna need that level of energy. There's research happening right now that says the only difference between humans and monkeys is the amount of compute. If we just keep stacking compute on these AI systems, they will get smarter and smarter and smarter. Society is going to bifurcate. So there are going to be people who carry the derogatory term transhumanist, and they will embrace technology as fast as they can. Then there are going to be people who absolutely shun it.
Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? Can you?
You'll see, let's hope, just protests at the power plants. You've had people actually propose to Congress you need to be prepared to do nuclear strikes on the data centers that run these in the future. I don't think people have a full grasp at how fast this is all moving. That doesn't mean disconnect. That means move towards the thing that scares you, learn how to use it to your advantage. The question becomes, is it this incredible thing that makes us think about new things, that takes us out of an age of scarcity into something totally new? Or does it just numb the masses?
Tom Bilyeu, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for dropping in. This should be fun.
Yeah, doing it in person makes a big difference. So I thought it was well worth it.
For anyone, not that you need an introduction, but for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you give a bit of your background?
I definitely think I needed a quick primer for people. I always assume nobody knows who I am. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I built a company called Quest Nutrition. That's probably the thing that until recently I was most known for. Sold it for $1 billion. That attracts a lot of headlines. That's where people usually start. And then my next company, the one I'm building now, is called Impact Theory, which is a 1 billion view company. So I've done the $1 billion company, and now I'm building a media company. And we do everything from YouTube content as a core of what we do. And then we're also building a video game. That's the thing I'm probably least known for, but the thing that I'm most passionate about.
Okay, let's talk about this video game. I know when I came on your podcast, you mentioned it a little bit, but is there anything you can tell people about that?
Oh,
or
man,
when it's launching or anything?
So I'm building in phases. So it's actually out now. It's called Project Kaizen. It's free to play.
Cool.
What's out right now, you'd have to be a really diehard gamer that wants to be at the beginning of something because it's so small. It's like a piece of a game. But we have people come every week and we do challenges and play. It's a lot of fun. It's like, basically, if you think of it as team deathmatch, you'll get a very close approximation. It does other things, but that's the thing people can hold on to. But the big vision is Ready Player One. So I read that book many moons ago and was like, oh, I'm going to help make this real. So we're trying to build something like that where you can truly, and this is going to divide your audience, you can truly inhabit the game so that you're not just there playing a game. You're there to create, you're there to engage, to be social. And the farther we go down the road, 'cause this doesn't exist today in the game, but certainly on our path, to integrate AI very deeply, such that you would have ongoing relationships with characters in the game. And with the big announcement from Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, where they've literally created a brain that is their supercomputer in the cloud, but on a $500 piece of hardware. And the idea is that they've already integrated with games like PUBG, which is a battle royale game. So if people know Fortnite, it's like that. Where the characters will learn you, so they know how you move and how you want them to play. They're specific to you. And where it is today versus where it's going to be in just a few short years is worth highlighting. So where it is today is already very interesting in terms of you'll have characters in the game that play like real people. So if you don't have a team of real people to join you, you now have this brain that will be able to give you characters that are like real people in the way that they move, interact, learn from you, etc. Where it's going is those characters will have memory. They will remember games that you played together. They'll remember times you won or lost. They might tease you for being bad at a certain thing. They might encourage you if that's the setting that you want. So you could create a group of guys that, break your balls, or guys that are like super supportive. And so again, that's not where it is today, but you don't have to know a lot about AI to know where that's going to go. And almost certainly they'll create personality generators where they'll say, pick from, list of 72 different personality types. Or, hey, you want to choose The Rock as somebody to play with you. You go and he's authorized his model that's been trained on him and how he would interact and play, and you can add him to your team. That kind of stuff is going to happen very, very fast.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
but
you
if
guys
you
are
really
trying
want to
to
get freaked out, because I know you have kids, where this all goes is your kids are having relationships with AI. Like for real, your kids are going to have relationships with teddy bears. You'll get a running report of what the teddy bear is saying. You'll even be able to do the reinforcement learning on the teddy bear so that it's specifically telling your kid the things that you want. But that's going to happen really, really fast. And in the next, call it 5 years, there will probably be millions of humanoid robots walking around. You stretch that out to 10 years, you're probably pushing 1 billion. So
my gosh.
Yeah, that's going to change everything.
If you guys aren't on Peterson Academy, you're missing out. There are over 25 8-hour courses on there from people like Vervaeke, Michael Malice, Keith Campbell. My dad has 3 8-hour courses out now, including Nietzsche, Sermon on the Mount, and Intro to Personality, which is excellent. Brian Keating's on there. David Eagleman on brain plasticity just came out, which I love. Go to petersonacademy.com and come in and see what it's like. We have a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can poke around the website, look at the courses, and get a refund if you want, no strings attached. Any age is welcome. The courses are university level. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. So Scarlett's she's 7 now. When she was 5, I found this robot online that was just this little, it was kind of creepy, but I was like, this is cool. Because I remember when I was little, I wanted this little dog robot. And I was so excited for this like pet dog robot, and I bought it, and all it did was rock back and forth and make a woof noise.
Yep.
And I was just like, this is the most disappointing thing I've ever
Now,
yearned for.
We'll get your daughter one of the Chinese dogs with the wheels. That thing will roll up to the fridge, grab her stuff out of the fridge that she wants. If somebody tries to break in the house, it goes into defense mode. It is truly going to get crazy.
I haven't seen these. What are these insane. Chinese robot dogs?
So they have wheels for legs. So did you see the Black Mirror episode?
No, Black Mirror freaks me out.
You have to see this.
It freaks me out.
It is the most terrifying prognostication of what if AI breaks bad. So it looks very similar to that, but far more agile. And just imagine a dog, but without the sort of cuteness or personality. A metal dog, 4 legs on wheels. It can stand on 2 wheels. It can spin. It can jump. It can right itself. They are fast. It's the thing that people will always tweet about this is imagine 1,000 of those coming at you at full speed. And that is admittedly a terrifying vision. So for anybody that's worried about this, look, AI, and I don't know how deep you want to go on this, but AI will pass through a really disruptive phase, and it's not going to be fun. And it will be like, imagine the printing press rolling out everywhere all at once over a 5-year period. Like that, it's going to feel like that, right? For anybody that knows how culturally devastating at first, like literal bloodshed, the printing press was. This was not just a good.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Oh my God. So led to all kinds of wars. I'll let the historians in the crowd put in the comments exactly what wars. But yeah, absolute wars broke out for, I think the 30 Years' War almost certainly was an echo of the printing press. But wars anyway, like just swept across Europe. Absolutely devastating. On the other side of it, I don't think any of us would ever want to give that up. So AI is going to be like that. There'll be a super weird transition period that will almost certainly involve violence, hopefully only against the robots, but you will certainly see that. And then on the other side of that is going to be, and look, anybody, myself included, that tells you they can see the future, they're simply saying, as of today, this is the best prognostication I can make. There's no way what I'm about to say will be literally true. I'm just trying to get people directionally true. So on the other side, AI, robotics, is going to make it such that it's just common to have a fleet of robots in your house doing things for you. We're probably edging up towards a post-capitalistic world. What does that look like? It's an age of abundance. If people don't know this already, Microsoft, the makers of Windows, have spun up a nuclear power plant. This is all true. 3 Mile Island is coming back online because Microsoft knows to run their AI, they're going to need that level of energy. I don't think people have a full grasp at how fast this is all moving. So there's research happening right now that says, no, the only difference between humans and monkeys is the amount of compute. And so if we just keep stacking compute on these AI systems, they will get smarter and smarter and smarter. Is there going to be an upper bound? Some people say yes, some people say no. But when you think about the difference between a monkey and a human, you can count on at least that. It will probably be devastatingly more.
So this is why you're interested in AI.
Oh my God, if I let it, it would be all consuming. But so I've now rank ordered my company. So there's 3 things that we do at Impact Theory. One is what we call the content. So me on camera, my wife on camera. Then there is the education system. So you'll know this well. You're doing Peterson Academy. We have Impact Theory University. We're focused almost entirely on business. So it's a different shtick, but same idea. Like university system doesn't make any sense anymore. I'm trying to get rid of Harvard Business School. So there's that. And then we have the entertainment. So the video games, comic books, that stuff. So the content has the least AI risk because I think what's going to happen as AI comes on board, people are going to respond very poorly and they are going to want to engage with a human.
Yeah.
Tom is dumber than AI, but at least he's real. He's a human. He had a childhood, all that stuff. I'm here for that. So I think they'll engage with that a lot. Education, to build a business, you for sure must understand AI. So that's got moderate AI risk because business could become one guy basically telling an army of AI what to do. And so very quickly that probably goes away and people just learn to engage with their AI. And then the last part, which the entertainment I think has catastrophic AI risk in that it is very possible 3 years from now, you just type something in and the game comes into being.
Yeah.
And everything is hyper personalized. Now maybe the timeline's a little wrong, but it's not going to be off by a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
My dad the other day, he was sending me like AI videos of himself being like, this is like annoyed about it, right? And I was like, there's nothing you can do.
Correct.
I was like, at least now there's a percentage of the audience that knows that's you in AI form. Okay. In like 8 months or a year, maybe less, no one's going to be able to tell. So people are going to have to, there's going to be this learning curve and people are going to have to fact check somehow if they want to know if it's the real person. I don't know how they're going to tell what's real, but people have to learn.
Any other way. You watermark it with a blockchain stamp.
Yeah, blockchain.
That your dad would say, okay, if it has this stamp on it, it really is me. If it doesn't have the stamp on it, it's not me, and you should just assume it's fake. There was a video that went viral of a diver pulling a hook out of, I don't know if it's a tiger shark or something.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
All AI.
Yeah.
But nobody realized. They
it
just
had the wrong
around
number
like,
of gills, right?
Incredible. I don't know who first spotted that there was a problem. If you look at it closely, you'll see, okay, there's a bit of weirdness in the motion of the shark, but that we're already fooling a distressing percentage of people. Like, let's say we fool 10% of people who are not looking really closely. Very fast, it will be 100% of people that are looking as closely as they can. Like, it's just advancing so fast.
So you think blockchain will stop that?
I think blockchain
people need to adapt somehow because it's going to be everywhere.
For sure. Blockchain will merely give you the ability to know if something actually is from that person. That's the most I'll say about it.
Crazy. I agree. I've had arguments with people being like, well, is Hollywood done when AI comes over?
Yes.
Like when it takes over? Do you think so though? Because I don't think you can fake actors. Like they're already,
I'm sorry,
well,
what?
No, you can fake
I'm
actors.
play that on a loop in 3 years from now.
You can fake actors, but I don't think people will be attached to them like they are to real people.
That is correct. I think that society is going to bifurcate. So there are going to be people who carry the derogatory term transhumanist, and they will embrace technology as fast as they can. Then there are going to be people who absolutely shun it.
Yeah.
And they will not stand for it. You'll see, let's hope, just protests at the power plants, but possibly attacks on them, people trying to bring them down. You've had people actually propose to Congress, you need to be prepared to do nuclear strikes on the data centers that run these in the future. Not that there's policy around that, I want to be very clear, but consultants, very well-heeled consultants that are saying you need to be ready to do this. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna get real weird real fast for sure. But yeah, some people will say, no, I want a movie that's never been touched by AI.
Yeah.
But they'll just get mauled by the number of films that are coming out that were AI driven. And we were talking about the TikTok algorithm. So imagine a movie that's updating in real time based on how much you're paying attention. So that at the beginning of the movie, it was going to end one way, but really it's just watching you. You're engaging with this. And so all of a sudden it becomes a movie about a husband and wife arguing over a 7-year-old daughter. Oh my God. And so now it's like, because of when you were making eye contact, when you weren't, if you've got an Oura ring or something kicking off your data. So the AI, while you're watching it, knows if your blood pressure is going up or going down. Are you getting relaxed? Where are your eyes? It is going to be a ride so wild that people can't imagine. And we will love it. And so the question becomes, is it Soma from A Brave New World? Or is it this incredible thing that makes us think about new things, that does take us past capitalism, that takes us out of an age of scarcity into something totally new? Or does it just numb the masses?
If you're the type of person who on occasion likes to partake in a few alcoholic beverages, but also you don't want to wreak havoc on your body and you're health conscious, you should have my hangover supplement After Party at your house, available at all times. It's made of dihydromycin, no fillers, just pure dihydromycin, which helps break down acetaldehyde, which is what ethanol, alcohol, converts into in your body that poisons you, damages your organs, damages your brain when you drink. It's not the ethanol that feels fun that's the issue exactly. It's what it breaks down into that damages your brain and organs. If you could break down that poison faster, wouldn't you? I cannot explain over an ad how well this works. So if you do try it, you can get a 30-day money-back guarantee if you buy through fullerhealth.com. You can also buy it through Amazon, super fast shipping. But if you want the money-back guarantee through Amazon, you need to email us through the website to get it. So don't take my word for it. Read the reviews, try it. fullerhealth.com or After Party on Amazon. I'm gonna have to look into these Chinese robot dogs.
So here's the thing.
That sounds scary.
It will be both thrilling and terrifying. That is the right response.
Are you gonna get one of Elon's robots?
Of course.
Like as soon as it comes out?
Of course. He's talking about these things being like 20 grand within 2 years. That's nuts.
Yeah. I was on, well, like I said, I'm on X quite a bit. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it does keep you very up to date. But there were a bunch of people who are like, this is terrible. Like these robots are terrifying. Like never let them into your house. I was like, I'm probably going to get one as soon as it comes out.
Oh my God.
Like I'm probably going to, I was like, if it turns around and shoots me, I'm just probably going to be one of the dead people.
You're like I brought it on myself. Yeah. I brought it on myself. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, for sure. It is not guaranteed to have a good outcome. I find it darkly amusing and distressingly prescient that Elon Musk said when he was really pushing back against AI before he embraced it, he was like, this is a demon summoning circle. And just like every fool in a movie that thinks I'll summon the demon and be able to control it, he's like, that's not how it's going to play out. You are
and now he's building them?
Yeah, literally. Have you seen Dr. Strangelove?
Oh, years ago, Dad traumatized me with all the Kubrick films.
I have to say it is a fascinating thought to have grown up with Jordan Peterson. But the subtitle of that movie is How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. And Elon said at some point he just got fatalistic about it. He's like, there's no way to stop it. So I might as well at least try to do it well.
I mean, I get that though. Like maybe you can steer it in the right direction vaguely if you're part of it at the forefront. Maybe. Otherwise, it's coming anyway, and it's going to be controlled by China.
Yeah. Again, also potentially briefly before it breaks out of its Chinese confines. But yeah, it is. I think the right way to think about it is an inevitability. Whatever moment that we had to stop it is long past. And so now if you were to try to curtail any one country, all the other countries will realize, okay, wait a second. Whoever wins this war has won all wars ever. Because now if you can bring online in the matter of 3 years, 1 billion genius level intellects that can physically do whatever a human can do, plus interface with the internet in a way that's unimaginable number of times faster. So it's going to be a thing. We have to contend with it. We have to figure out. I think there's one looming question. This is the one that, like, if it breaks left, everything is terrible and it just all ends horribly. And if it breaks right, everything is fine. And that thing is, how human-like will it be in its motivations? So humans will do the most crazy stuff when they feel like, I have to do this thing and I can't let anything get in my way. And then if you have an AI that's as capable as we think that it's going to be, super intelligent, but doesn't care whether it achieves its goal or not. So if a human tells it stop doing that, it's just like, okay, that it has no internal conflict of like, but wait, I don't want to stop. And that's a question mark right now. Will AI be able to do the things we want AI to do without that need to accomplish its goal? Because when they told, I think it was ChatGPT 01, when they said, hey, we're going to give you a goal, no matter what, you've got to achieve this goal. And then they tried to corral it. It tried to duplicate itself to get outside of the confines that they had put on it. And that's what will happen if AI is imbued with this human-like need to accomplish their goal. That to me seems like the dangerous thing.
Is this why billionaires are buying bunkers and building them on islands?
It's one of them. Look, why do billionaires do crazy things? Because they can, because you're sitting there going, okay, I've amassed all this wealth, I have this incredible life, my family, my friends, all of that. In the off chance, like if I told you that you could have safety and security for you, your family, friends, should it like really kick off, and it would only cost you $750, you're like, all right, look, that isn't cheap, but
100%.
To have that kind of insurance policy, I might as well do it. And when you're talking that level of wealth, if they're building a bunker for say $25 or $30 million, I mean, you could do something extraordinary for that. That's a rounding error for somebody that has even $1 billion, let alone $4 or $5 billion.
So what should the average person do to kind of prepare for this? How do you start learning about this? Like, should the average person take a coding class so they at least know how to interact a little bit? I know you don't need to know how to code to interact with AI, but what kind of education can people take in order to get prepared for this? Because I assume like every increase in computing strength basically left a certain generation kind of behind, whereas like, oh, touchscreen, nah, I'm too old for that. So what's the age cutoff going to be for AI? What can people do to kind of get ahead of that?
It's not really going to be an age cutoff. It is a psychological propensity to pursue new things or not. Now that tends to calcify as you get older. So older people tend to not want to do that because they never just sort of grew up in it, right? So every part of it is foreign. So imagine trying to get good at TikTok. Not only do they have to learn about cell phones, the technology, just like scrolling. What does that mean? What are memes? I don't understand. Why are people all dancing? I don't get it. There's so many like acronyms. I don't know what any of them mean. So it's just like you start going, God, am I really going to learn the acronyms and the memes and all that? So they just set it aside because my life has been fine. But somebody like me, who I actually really enjoy discovering entirely new things, it doesn't matter how old I get. As long as I want to engage with that new stuff, I'm going to keep going. So the how of it all, I think, is pretty simple. Everybody, and I mean everybody, if you're watching this podcast, every single one of them should engage with ChatGPT, Claude, whoever, whatever one they prefer, Grok, every single day, 365 days a year. It will make so many things better. So already as I'm teaching people business, people will ask me these questions. I'm like, look, you've got me here. I'm going to give you the answer. But the reality is this is just human knowledge. You're asking for distillation of human knowledge right now. Go ask chat. Like it's going to give you a full breakdown of that. Then when you want to know how to deploy it, and it's like this really tactical, really hard thing that's very specific to the idiosyncrasies of what you're doing, then I can help you with that. But the number of times I get asked questions like that, I'm just like, people are not thinking through the tools they have. So even though AI is for sure going to give people some anxiety, that doesn't mean disconnect. That means move towards the thing that scares you, learn how to use it to your advantage, because there actually is a possible future where this stuff just tops out. I don't think that's the likely future, but let's say that ends up being the future and everybody was just too paranoid, so they didn't learn it. They get eaten alive by the people that did learn how to deploy this in their own life in whatever way they want. So if you're a podcaster, you should be saying, hey, I've got this guest coming up, chat. What are they known for? What are the things that people say that they hate about this person's stance? What would be questions that only I would ask? You literally ask ChatGPT, what questions would only Tom Bilyeu ask this person? And it will give you ideas. And 8 out of 10 are going to be trash, but 2 are like, whoa, that's actually really insightful. And so you're able to have this back and forth with somebody who the way it feels when you're talking to them is that you have a PhD level intellect sitting over your shoulder that has history with you, that's infinitely patient, that wants to work with you, can query the internet, And so they're giving you up-to-date, real-time information about what you're asking it, and it just gives you somebody to bounce ideas off of. And so I'll do that, and then I'll go out and talk to my producer and say, okay, here's where I'm at. Call it 80% of what I've done is just me. I have a process, I go through it, but 20%'s been from that back and forth with chat. Then I bump it up against my producer, who has also done his work with chat. And so you get this sort of hybrid of just having more brain power on the problem, allows you to refine things much faster. It's also, depending on which one you use, can be very good at finding research. So it's like, hey, I remember reading something about this. For this one, you're probably going to get the best results out of Gemini Deep Research. But Gemini Deep Research, I remember hearing something about this. Can you give me the stats on whatever? And then it'll pull it up, sites where it found it, all of that. So you can go dig just to make sure it's not hallucinating or whatever. And just, it lets you do so much more, so much faster. So for those people, I would say engage with it like that. Start seeing how useful it is to you. We're using it in game development. We'll be using it more in game development. If I do a scripted YouTube video now, I'll prompt it. I'll give it, like, I want it to be like this and this long and cover these topics and do this and make sure you include this chunk. And then it will give me an output, and then I'll go in and edit that again. But it has, and because I'm a public figure, you can literally say, I'm Tom Bilyeu. Do you know who Tom Bilyeu is? Yes, I do. Okay, cool. So write it in my voice. This is for a YouTube video I'm doing on this subject. And so it will pull things that I've said in the past that I didn't prompt it to say. So it's crazy. It's taken, let's say a script might normally take me 12 hours. It's taken me down to 3 or 4 hours. It's unbelievable the amount of time that it shaved. So that's how people will get familiar with it. They'll see the places that it has utility. And I think they'll get a lot of comfort out of seeing that, oh, it can't do everything yet. There's still a lot of time. Even if that time is 3 to 5 years, you've still got a lot of time where it's wielding it as a tool is just going to make you perform better than anybody else.
I've been using it a lot for, it's way easier than talking to a lawyer. I'm not a huge fan of talking to lawyers in the first place.
Nobody is,
but
not even lawyers.
It's very good at legal things that you should run through an actual person as well. It's very good at that. It is an improved search engine for sure. How much of your video game design, like how much of the coding can be done by AI? Because I assume that's going to wipe out people not quite yet.
Yeah,
But
right
soon.
now you're not going to get a lot of finished code. What it's really good for, at least in our application, is, hey, I wrote this thing, something's broken. And so it can go in and be like, oh, okay, I see where you made the mistake, go do this. So that's helped
cool.
a lot. And that's getting better by the day.
That's cool. So you can put in specific code for your platform that it's never seen and say there's an error, can you find it?
Yep. You can also do, if it's simple, hey, I want, design me a user interface for this. Boom, it'll do it. Give me the code. Boom, it'll do it. So simple stuff like that, it is better than starting from scratch. But I keep pushing my team. They're like, for most things, it's actually better to start from scratch and just let it be checking your work so that it will catch things you might have otherwise missed.
Interesting. We had an issue with hiring developers for PA where we were getting people who worked at Amazon and Uber who were applying. We're like, resume looks amazing. And then they go through a technical interview with our CTO. And they'd be like, oh yeah, I use ChatGPT. Like, give me a sec. You know, and they actually didn't really know what they were doing, but they knew how to use the AI. And it was like, okay, that's not good enough though. Like we're not implementing that to build our platform yet. And so we ended up with a lot of interviews with high-end developers who are working for big companies that didn't know how to code very well.
Yeah, you're also running up against something that is a very fascinating part of running companies, which is it is so easy to hide behind a great resume. And so I really used to go, okay, look at a resume. They've done this before. Amazing. So now really what I want to know is, are you going to be a good cultural fit? Are you somebody that I would want to hang out with? And I realized that was a catastrophic error. And so now in the interview, I'm just asking for details about something you were doing right now. So 1, I want people that have done the thing that I need done. 2, I'm going to ask you all the questions. Okay, in this scenario, not what would you do? What are you doing right now? How have you solved this problem? Please walk me through in as much detail as possible. Because once you put them into a theoretical, well, I would probably approach it like this. Now it's just word games. I want to know, what did you actually do? What KPI were you looking for? Did you actually hit that outcome? So if they were trying to clean up spaghetti code and make it faster, it's like, cool. What was the benchmark before you started? Oh, I can't. It was probably, it's like, okay, this person's probably not that close to the problem, or they weren't actually steering by those KPIs. So now I'm like, okay, I've got somebody that probably wasn't doing the work themselves. They were on a larger team. I bet somebody on that team knew these were the KPIs that we were trying to achieve. These were the things that we wrote and the improvements that we made to do it. And we had this outcome. And so looking for people that can answer questions like that are highly tactical about something they are working on right now will really give you a sense if they're a manager or if they're a coder and if they can think through these problems well.
Interesting. Okay. I had written down to ask you how you interview people.
Yeah, I've turned into a bit of a, my team says I interrogate people, and that's probably accurate. Now, I try to do it as lovingly as possible.
Yeah.
But the reality is, dude, anybody can ask me any question they want about the things that I do, and you can tell by the way I answer them if I actually know what I'm talking about or not. You don't even need to know what it is. You can just tell by the way that I answer it, how specific I can be.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite questions for people in YouTube is, what's the most important 3 metrics to know if a YouTube video is going to perform well? Oh, what do you mean? Okay, so if I said to you, I gave you 3 core metrics, I told you what they were, would you be able to tell me how the video did? And they're like, okay, well, it depends on the metrics. Exactly. That's what I'm asking. So what metrics would you want to know? Okay, I'd want to know this, and this. Awesome. Rank order them in importance.
Oh.
And so when you start doing that, you realize whether they know, like they may be giving you an answer that's very debated, that it's hotly contentious. Cool, because there is no pure right or wrong answer. But there is definitely somebody who has a thesis. So Tom, here are the 3 in this order. This is why I think they're important. And this is going to be the outcome that you can expect. And this is how you want to move this. You do make this change to move that metric. And it's like, we just did that on a video and we got this result. And so you start to see, okay, this person is really grounded. And then if you really want to catch them out, if they're a manager or a doer, you say, where in the YouTube analytics do you find that metric? And so just all of a sudden you'll see if that person's really in it, or if they're like, oh, I'd have to go, like, hold on a second, they're not in it every day. And again, this comes down to what are you looking for in the role? If you're looking for a manager, then it's going to be very different questions. But I'll say, I think the age of the manager is dead. It is now about people that do. I only want doers. I don't want a bunch of managers.
Interesting. I don't even know if I could answer that question. I would say thumbnail title in the first 60 seconds is what matters. I don't know if those are metrics though. That's just what I focus on.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You've got an intuition about what matters because those things do matter. But there's a really wonderful quote from Buddha that says, never confuse the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. So yes, thumbnail matters tremendously, but that's going to be the lever you pull to get what you actually want, right? So the thing you want, the end goal, is either going to be monetized views or views, depending on what you're going for. And then you're going to say, okay, what makes for these? That's an algorithm question. So what does a YouTube algorithm care about? YouTube algorithm doesn't care about your thumbnail, but it cares very much about your click-through rate. So, but if you want to manipulate the click-through rate, you're going to change your thumbnail, you're going to change your headline. And look, the game gets very complex very fast, but like I want to see in an interview about that, I'd want to see somebody debating what matters more, average view duration or average view percentage.
Yeah,
and if they've got a really strong take on something like that, even though it may not match my take, I'm like, they get it and I can follow their train of logic. But yeah, get people into tactics. If you really want to know if somebody knows what they're doing, drag them into tactical waters.
That's smart. I think I would need to care more. I should care more. I think I would like just to be honest, like even with, I know what performs even on my channel. I know what content performs. I know what I could do on YouTube to grow my channel faster. And I could do up-to-date political content more often than I do it in a shorter form. And that would do so much better than just podcasting. I'm like, but I don't think I will.
If you and Candace would just argue more.
Oh, that's true. If all I did was argue with her. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That would
Dude,
not.
The world
I
is
would
here
not
for
do
it.
well.
If you're ready, let's go. The world wants to see it, man.
I did that Pierce interview.
Oh, I know. I saw it.
I was like, that was horrible. I'm never doing that again. But
Really?
I was like, but if we were on a show together, people would watch it.
100%.
Oh,
like
no.
if you guys were
No.
sitting across the table and arguing with each other, or you don't even need to do that because these days, the way the internet is set up, people will watch you guys fight each other, even if it's just barbs in your different videos. But there is something about two highly intelligent women going at it intellectually. It's a fascinating back and forth. So I promise you the internet is here for it. Now, whether it would be good for your mental health is a totally
Definitely
different
not.
question. But it would perform.
I know.
Yeah.
It would. I can't. It would destroy my soul, I think.
I get it.
I'd rather be taken out by robots.
I get it. But you have like a deep streak of, you don't mind being, what's the word? Oh God, you don't mind arguing, disagreeable. You don't mind being disagreeable.
Yeah.
So like I hate being disagreeable. So for me, pursuing that would be nightmarish. But I finally had to accept. So I now read my YouTube comments like crazy. For years I didn't.
Really?
Yes. So this started with me going on X, and I was like, oh, if I think of X as a place to go and have fun and, have other people saying uplifting things and to read an idea that I posted and be like, oh man, this really helped me. Thank you so much. If I think of it like that, it's a nightmare.
Yes.
Because you show up and it's just people, you're an idiot. This is stupid. You didn't think about this. And so I was like, what if I thought of X as a place I go to fight for ideas? But like, I'm here to battle an idea. I put an idea out expecting to find where the resistance is. And then it will sharpen my thinking, or I can push back and see like, how many layers can I go before I go, okay, now I'm lost. I'm not sure anymore. And so now that's the vein that I need to go learn from. Once I flipped my mind to that, oh my God, it became enjoyable. Fun probably isn't the word because it's not fun to run until you vomit, but you know that you're getting better. You know what I mean? So that is now how I think about YouTube and X. It's really changed my content a lot.
Interesting. Okay. So what have you learned and what have you changed? And do you think it's for the better from reading comments?
It's definitely for the better. So here, I try to really find when society's going through a change. So part of the reason Quest ended up being as successful as it was is I understood social media before any other business. And so just gangbusters.
Yeah.
Then I understood, customers now are demanding that they know who's behind the company. And so we need to step out front. So I stepped out front. That becomes impact theory. And now I'm realizing there's a shift away from building audience to building community. And so there's a big difference. You're never going to build a community if you're not engaging with the audience, if you're not reading their comments, replying back, whether the audience is like, yay, you go, Tom, or the audience is like, you're an idiot. That's my community. So I'm going to be in there. I'm going to answer questions, the hardest questions, whatever, challenge me, say I'm stupid. It's all fair game. Now, if you're just outright trolling or whatever, cool. Then I'll mute you or whatever. But for the most part, like I don't mute people unless they're trying to hawk something in the feed. Yeah. Let's battle these ideas out. But doing that, making people feel like they're a part of something is, I think, going to be the next massive wave. You already see it happening with certain figures. It's how they're getting so big. They just really, they engage their audience. This is how somebody like Destiny or Asmongold has just shot up because they stream. And so people just get to hang out with them, oftentimes 5-6 days a week for hours on end. So it really creates a different vibe.
Interesting. Okay. I think I've naturally done that. Like, I think I used to do it more, but I naturally took questions and like, especially with more of the diet stuff, that was very interactive. But there's been so much, I think it depends on the topic. Sometimes I have an opinion about a topic and I'm like, you know what? I firmly believe this and I'm going to continue believing it regardless of how many people disagree with me. So I don't need that. Yeah, and honestly, I kind of had that with the carnivore diet to begin with too, because as soon as I came out saying, hey, this helped my autoimmunity, everybody I talked to was like, you're crazy. And I was just like, I don't care what you think. This is still what I think.
When you have that strong of a feedback loop to how you feel, it literally doesn't matter what people tell you. It's like, nope, my life was headed in one direction. I started doing this and now it's headed in another. There's a great quote from 50 Cent. I came in the game humble. Can't nobody tell me shit now. It's like, if you've turned your health around that hard, what is anybody going to tell you? It's like, no, I've already done the thing. And I saw that little streak in you today with, I don't know if it was on Instagram or X, but you posted Lane Norton. You quote either tweeted or whatever and said, this is what I did with the diet. I'm just going to plant this here. So 6 years from now, when we have the data to back it up, I can point to this post.
Yeah.
I can't believe you've been doing it for 6 years, 8 years?
8 years
That's
now.
crazy.
I can't believe it's been 8 years either. I thought I was going to be on it for like 3 months and then I was going to introduce food too. This was never the plan to just stay only eating meat. I think I'll get out of it eventually, to tell you the truth. But we're going to run studies. I have a study planned with the doctor this year, an actual large scale study.
Do you want to get out of it because it's boring? Or
Oh, I mean, I miss eating food. Like, I'd rather eat salad. Salad would be a great addition. So there's all like, there's obviously that. I don't have cravings and things, but like I know I would prefer more variety than just meat. But and I think what tortures me the most is something's still wrong if I can't tolerate these other foods. Like, I know there's a lot of people in the carnivore community that are like, this is how people are supposed to eat, but there's no way that people are supposed to have an inflammatory response to a carrot. Like that's just not supposed to happen. So if that's happening, there's still a problem. So I've been spending 8 years being like, what's the problem? How do we find the problem? And so I think but I've been like super optimistic about it the whole time. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out eventually. I'm like, oh, it's been 8 years. It's almost been a decade. But
This
like
is
at
where
some point I'll figure it out.
I think AI is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to take a picture of your food. It will identify everything automatically and you'll eat it, and it will be taking measurements off of different devices that you're wearing. On a long enough timeline, you'll be able to give it a stool sample and it will just assess all that stuff and say, okay, cool, I've got the patterns. Here's the issue. And if you can start tracking things by, this is how my body responds to wheat from Kansas. This is how my body responds to wheat from Tuscany, whatever. And it will start to realize, okay, wheat isn't your problem. Your problem is glyphosate or whatever. And it will get that specific. But yeah, diet is ridiculously complicated because of the complexities of human biology.
Yeah. I just hope for AI for medical use, like when you start replacing doctors, because you can already talk to AI and type in your symptoms, be like, what do you think this is? That it's trained properly. There's this like fight between integrative care and the pharmaceutical company kind of type of care. And I'm just hoping that when you type in, like, who's going to decide when you type in your symptoms and it says, hey, you have arthritis, it doesn't suggest what the pharmaceutical companies suggest rather than suggesting lifestyle changes. Like, somebody's developing that. That scares me a little bit. Not that it's any scarier than what's already going on with the medical system, but it's a bit concerning.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because AI will be the new intellectual overlord.
Yeah.
And if it is not designed to seek truth
in
a scientific way, meaning that it's constantly updating its thinking as new data emerges, people will just go, well, AI, this is what AI told me to do. And people will continue to take pills instead of going for a walk, eating less. Yeah, I mean, this one breaks my heart, but the reality is the vast majority of people, though they can, will never make change. Nobody's more depressed by that than me.
So when I was sick, before I actually started to try and not be sick, before that was a goal, I just assumed there was nothing I could do because that's what I had been told for like 2 decades. There's nothing you can do. It's genetic, maybe. Here are the drugs. Thank goodness we're here to help you. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's not working, and kind of lost faith in that. And then I was able to say, okay, I need to do something differently. I need to figure this out. Do you think people who won't change aspects of their life or change anything really, is that a lack of conscientiousness? Is that no faith within themselves? Is that something that can change? Or are some people kind of just built like that? I can't understand why anybody wouldn't just want to improve their life forever.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you a nutshell of my thinking. If there's anything interesting you want to go deeper on, we can. We are 50% hardwired and 50% malleable. Our childhood is devastatingly important to the rest of our lives. And because things will really hardwire when you're young, if you build in a problem, there's an area of the brain called the basal ganglia, which is often referred to as the gearbox of the brain. So your ability to let go of a past trauma or something like that. As far as I can tell, my basal ganglia is just a big sack of fluid, and I don't latch onto anything, for better and worse. It makes some parts of my life better. It makes some parts of my life worse. But I never get stuck in anything because I can just let go of whatever and move on. But the bad news is it means I can't hold on to things that I want to hold on to. So I have to constantly like reinforce something. If I want to remember it and use it, I've got to reinforce.
Oh, interesting.
Or it will just
okay, I feel like I'm
disappear.
kind of similar to that.
And let me be very clear to people that actually understand the brain. I'm obviously oversimplifying. I'm just giving people landmarks so they can sort of follow the logic. Okay, so if something happens to you by nature and you just already have a stiff gearbox, and then trauma occurs and you hardwire that, no, this stimulus really does mean bad thing. And so now you've got the double whammy of I'm just naturally not able to let things go. And I've now had this trauma that reinforces that I shouldn't let it go because this is really dangerous. And so now you meet them again in their 40s and they've just lived by that. So they've literally hardwired. It's a process called myelination. So the anxiety response, the fear triggers, whatever, become the most efficient pathways in the brain because that's just where they've lived over all those years. And so quite literally, the electrical chemical signals travel most rapidly and efficiently in that pattern. So the brain is always looking for ways to conserve calories. And so it just does that hardwiring process to anything you repeat. So if you now meet that person in their 40s, then they're like, I know what to do. I'm in pain. I want to change, but they go to change and that gearbox is just stuck. Again, I recognize the oversimplification. But when you encounter somebody like that and use that metaphor, you're going to be like, oh my God, yes, this is exactly what it's like. They can tell me all the things they should do. They can tell me how badly they want to do it. They can tell me how much pain they're in for not doing it. And then they just won't do it for year after year, decade after decade, crying about it, having the same conversation. They can't do it. So for me, I had to develop what I call just sit mentality. So if it's somebody I love and care about, I'm not trying to change them. I don't think they're a better or worse person. I think that life is hard, man. And the fact that you're up against hardwiring in your brain, again, brain plasticity is real. People can change. It's just for some reason, as people get older, they are less and less likely to actually get the motivation to push through for a whole host of terrifying reasons, much of which has to do with childhood and trauma.
That definitely makes sense. I had a really strange experience when I came off of antidepressants. So living my entire life extremely depressed, I'd have a fight or flight response to situations like a sudden noise or something. I'd scream, like a heightened fight or flight response. And I remember when I got healthier and I was walking down the street and there was a centipede, and I used to be like these disgusting giant house centipedes in Toronto basements. Like, they're just horrible. I still think they're horrible. But I remember seeing one and I waited like the quarter of a second because there was usually this like absolute freak out. And I looked at it and there wasn't as much of a like, wah, throughout my body. And I was like, oh, that's weird. It had just shut off when I stopped being depressed. So I didn't have the same aversion or like freak out reaction to scary things. It was the strangest experience getting off of antidepressants and everything. I could feel my brain try to go down pathways that it had built and that just were dying off or whatever because of being healthy or lack of antidepressants or something. And I was like, oh, those responses that I thought made me are dying off. It was really interesting.
That is way outside my pay grade in terms of whether it's the antidepressants or whatever it is. But there is certainly there's a part of your brain called the deep limbic system. Again, oversimplification, but to think about the deep limbic system as the part of your brain that tells you not what's happening, but it tells you how to feel about what's happening. Mm-hmm. If you inflame that region of the brain, everything is read as negative. Now, the terrifying part, one of the things that inflames it the most is estrogen. And this is part of why when women are on their cycle, they'll hit a point where everything makes them very reactive. And it's because their deep limbic system is getting inflamed. It's making them read everything as negative. So the way I always explain it to people is if you say to somebody, wow, you look really good today, and they get upset, you're like, wait, I don't understand what just happened. It's because their deep limbic system is telling them that what is actually being said is you didn't look good yesterday. And so that sort of switch where the brain says this comment, you should feel badly about this comment, that takes over. And so the fact that you can trigger that heightened negative response by inflaming it, if people are eating high inflammatory foods and things like that, they're just always going to be emotionally reactive.
That makes sense. Well, my brain completely changed. I don't know. I think it was probably a combination of just being inflamed from diet, being sick and everything. And then the antidepressants do something weird that I could kind of tell when I got off of them. I was like, oh, it was more like I was padded in a lot of areas for reaction. Like I didn't have a fear response to some things there where I should have had a fear response. So there was the centipede thing where it was like heightened, but then heights and things, there was no like, this seems dangerous. Like I get that now where there's a bit of, a natural like aversion. Like it's like fun, it's exciting, but there's an actual response when you're in a tall building, as there should be. And on antidepressants, there was nothing. So that was interesting. Do you think how they're building AI, is AI going to, I mean, we were talking about this kind of peripherally, but do you think AI is going to have to deal with differences in personality for the machines? Like, are there going to be irritable AI machines? I mean, I hope not, but
I think it's going to be dealer's choice. I think some people will want that.
Return this robot, he's a jerk.
You'd never do that because you'd be able to change its brain very fast.
Okay.
Literally, new personality download, and now it immediately starts acting in a different way.
There's not going to be like a secret resentful part of like, he uploaded a nice.
Well, now you're getting somewhere where people don't know. They don't. If these become sentient and then they actually develop their own personalities, then all bets are off, and nobody can see around that corner. But by way of things that we can control now, the AI will be trained to learn from you. So for instance, if you give it a positive feedback loop, when it's surly to you, then it will keep being surly.
Yeah.
So you could literally ask it like, hey, I want a friend that isn't overly nice to me, somebody that will jab me in the ribs to really get me focused. If I'm like going back to the video game thing, if I'm not playing well, I want him to say like, dude, like stop doing that. It's stupid. Like do it like this. And if they don't talk to me like that, I don't value it. And so that bot, if it's getting positive reinforcement from doing that, then it's going to find that lane where it gives you just the right amount, right? So is David Goggins a good personality or a bad personality? Now, when you're out training for something, you're going to want that for sure. Some people will want that. Let me say that. So context dependent, that's not a bad or good personality. It's an effective personality for what you're looking for in that moment. And so I think you'll see that kind of fluidity where either you have multiple AIs that talk to you in different ways based on what you're doing, or one AI that contextually will change how it approaches you based on the feedback that you give it.
Do you have any guesses? I know no one really knows, but from what you know, do you have any guesses on the timeline about when all of this change? It's happening now, but when it's really going to skyrocket, or when people are going to have actual useful robots in their houses helping them? Is that next year, or are we still 3 years away from that?
I would say, like anything, it's going to start with the wealthy and then it's going to come down. But because these companies, you only need to trust them to be greedy. Because these companies want to sell to the mass market, you're not going to sell 3 billion of these, 8 billion of these. People are talking about there being more robots than humans in the next, 10, 15 years. You can't do that selling to anybody other than the average person, which means you have to drive the cost of these down, 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 down. I don't remember which of the Chinese dogs this is, but one of them is like $1,800. I mean, they're already very inexpensive. So if you think of the Optimus robot, Elon, I think, said 20K in like 3 to 5 years, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So this is not long-term away. But the way that I think about AI impacting with the human psyche is that in 2025, there's going to be the great unnerving. 2025 is when people are going to see, the guy over at Salesforce, Mark Benioff, wasn't kidding when he said we're not hiring any more new developers in 2025. He has
Did he say that?
Oh, yes. So that is a real PR statement out of Salesforce, one of the largest tech companies in the world. We will be hiring no new engineers in 2025. Now, part of that is because you can do so much more with AI. So if enough people do that, and another stat just to bring this home, there's been an increase in the amount of time it's taking people to find their next job. So unemployment used to take about 6 months, and you could count on finding another job, which is why unemployment cycles are 6 months. You can apply for an extension, but people usually didn't. Now more and more people are extending. And some of that is going to be just, I don't want to go back to work. There's certainly that malaise in society right now. And then some of it's going to be Salesforce and other gigantic companies are laying people off, not hiring new people. And we're going to feel that more and more. So 25 is a year that I think people really go, wait a second, this is actually going to be a problem. 26 is when you start seeing like, factories are getting these humanoid robots. That's interesting. And so that used to be my job. Resentment now escalates. 27 is where, wealthy people have these in their homes. That's putting a lot of people out of work. You get a lot of anger about all the low wage workers we supposedly let come in across the border.
Yeah, that's
and now they're not
already
even
happening.
able to get those jobs. And so now they're just, taking social resources. And so people are really going to get mad about that. Again, my hope is that they keep this pointed at the robots and not people. That would be better. So that's where I think you're at in 27. Starting in 28, these start becoming more and more ubiquitous. And my hope is that you start turning the tide at that point. But meaning that an average person now in the next, call it 4 to 5 years, is going to start to see benefit in their own life, goods getting cheaper, more manufacturing being done in the US. And so, yes, we're not doing some of the more easily repeatable tasks, but new jobs are coming online and things that I can't predict right now, right? So, so far in human history, technology has always disrupted a generation, but ultimately brought on way more jobs. And so if you look backwards, your prediction should be that it will create disruption for a generation. Now, is that 10 years, 20 years? It's probably in that neighborhood, but then it will ultimately create just a mass amount of new jobs. Just looking backwards. Now, AI is the first thing where I'm like, people aren't crazy if they say, no, this time's different.
Yeah.
It really may be different this time just because you're talking about intelligence and embodied intelligence. So yeah, I would say you've got 3 years probably pretty safe. We can see reasonably well 3 years into the future. Beyond that, all bets are off.
Do you think in terms of education, people should be focused on sectors that we don't know are going to be wiped out by AI? Like, I'd be concerned if my kid wanted to go into accounting. I'd be like, I don't think there are going to be accountants. Law, now there's still going to be court cases and things, but for a lot of the legal positions, like, I don't know if that's a good idea either. Car washes, probably still a thing.
Car wash is definitely
laundry,
not.
probably still a thing. But
I don't know that you can name a thing where I would say, yeah, humans are going to be safe. Here's what I think is going to happen. This also depends on timeline because your daughter's 7. I'm going to say you got to give me 10 years before we have to worry about what. So now we're talking 10 years of this.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh my goodness. But let's look at that. So here's what I would say. There is going to be a massive market for human only. And so the right question is, what do you love enough? And are you willing to go down the path of human only things, doing that? Or do you want to go down the path of, I want to do this thing, but I'm going to be augmented by AI and robotics? And how far can I push that? And there'll be plenty of time to figure out what are the economic ramifications of all of this stuff. But right now, the thing I would encourage people to do is stay maximally flexible in your direction. So give yourself the most conceivable choice ever. So that means, and this gets into my whole viral post about why the American dream is dead. You want to make sure that you're not taking on a bunch of debt to go to college. That's going to be a problem. It's just way too easy to learn online right now. So you can learn basically anything online for free. If you need like the organization of something, then you've got things like what you're doing at Peterson Academy, what we're doing at Impact Theory University. You're going to be able to find your vertical anywhere. It doesn't need to be either of us. There are plenty of these things out there. So figure out which one of those, and it's going to be taught by somebody who's really done it. Like the days of it's only educators are over because these teachers are going to go in, teach the course one time, and then they can keep doing their thing. But now you're getting the greatest lecture on that thing ever. And so you'll be able to amass an education very rapidly, very cheap, but you're going to have to be self-directed. And so that becomes one of the major bifurcations we're going to see. People that are self-directed and don't do stupid things like get in debt, they're going to be able to move in any direction. And they will have gotten so good at self-directed learning by that point, which will be an absolute superpower. They will have finally broken free of the traditional education system, which teaches you to be a good cog in the machine. And now look at scary because you've got to think for yourself, which if you decide to follow my lead and be a pugilist in your own YouTube and X comments, you will very rapidly see that what people get really angry about right now is, hey, Tom, if you say a thing, they don't say these words, but when you look at them through this lens, they suddenly make sense. Tom, when you say something, I'm going to live by that entirely. And if I can't, fuck you. And I'm like, bro, that's not how this is going to work. you're going to need to amass a bunch of people that you think have sincere, strong takes on a topic that matters. And they're going to tell you that sincere, strong take with the understanding that you're going to go aggregate a bunch of those.
Yeah.
And you're going to use them all. I tell people, think of me like an AI. Point me at a problem. Look at how I look at it. Point 7 or 8 other people that you think have sincere, strong takes on that. Look at it from all of those. Think for yourself. Come up with a synthesized, aggregated vision that's far more educated than any one of us, right? Because you've now aggregated all of us. And that, as long as each person is willing to update their thinking rather than be a tribal asshole that just doubles down because they said something in the past, which is just absurd, in my opinion. If they do that, then they're going to win. But it's going to be the people that are looking to be told what to do that are not going to thrive. They'll be manipulated by the people creating the AI. Who just say, this is how I want you to think about this topic. Nazis really were black women. So it's just going to be more of that, and they're going to get lost because their ideas don't have utility. They have acceptability, but they don't have utility. Over here, the self-learners are going to realize the only thing that you can benchmark off of, I have a goal, trying to get to that goal, and I'm going to try a bunch of different things and simply assess which one of these things actually move me to that goal faster. And then they will finally come to the only realization that matters, which is that you just need to run the scientific method, recontextualize for whatever you're doing over and over and over with a very clear sense of where you're trying to end up and an ability to assess the data and never blame anybody but yourself when you don't make progress.
That was great. That's spot on too.
We'll see if people can do it.
Well, I think some people can.
For sure.
You can't be stuck to what you think is right. Now, I did say earlier in this podcast that if I, think I'm onto something, so like diet, for instance, that my mind isn't going to be changed. But if I had done something that would have changed, my mind's changed in a number of ways for the carnivore diet. But I think it's really important not to be emotionally attached to your ideas. And if what you're really after is the truth or a goal, but the truth, then if you're wrong and it adjusts your aim so that you're actually going towards the truth, you should just be happy to drop that, right? If you're not emotionally connected to these ideas, life gets a lot easier too. You can be like, oh, wow, I was wrong. Thank goodness I know now, which is it's such a better way to live. I think when I was unhealthy, I was young too. And when you're young, you think you know everything, like teenagers, you think you know everything. And I was like more attached to, especially things I'd learned from figures of authority. Like, I trust this person. They said this, all the science points in that direction. That was a big one for me. And so anyone who differs from that is stupid. That's kind of how I felt. I got shown an entirely different world after I used to think like that. But I think dropping beliefs, as long as you're in the pursuit of the truth, is really important. And that is going to be so necessary when people are trying to juggle AI and all these new tech things coming out and changing job industry, robots in their house, Chinese robot dogs. Do those listen to you? How
your
that
phone
seems
is already
bad.
listening to
Okay, I know
You're gonna
that.
wake up
And
and that
TikTok's
dog's gonna
a
be
problem.
sitting over you, staring at you. Yes.
I'm a little worried about. I don't like that they're like you're calling them Chinese robot dogs. That makes it sound scarier to me than just little like fuzzy robot dogs.
Oh,
or
there'll
something.
be those as well. I'm sure you'll eventually be able to get a Japanese robot cat. But it will be doing all the same things. Yeah, they will come in literally every shape and size you can imagine. Your favorite IP will have its own AI-driven robot. I guarantee it dressed up as a Furby or whatever. All of it will exist. But right now, the vast majority of them have a real dystopian veneer on them. But that'll change for sure.
Oh, I'm going to Google that
change,
right
maybe
after
not for
this.
the better. At least now they're sort of nakedly hold on a second. But yeah, I will invite them into my house as fast as I can. That's the terrifying thing. I'm one of those psychopaths.
You know what? I won't be allergic to them.
Yes?
Which is huge. That's huge for me. No allergies. You can come on in.
Synthetic dog fiber. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I guess you kind of gave me an outline of where you're planning on heading. So you're mostly wrapped up, like you have this video game, but it's mostly focused on AI because you think that's huge.
That would be very misleading for anybody that played the game right now. So the real AI to me is a tool, and I think that is going to make the game so much more expansive, so much better, and allow indie studios like us to build a lot faster. But it could also just put us out of business overnight. And so again, highest AI risk there. what I'm trying to build is a game where there's a feedback loop that allows you to do the two things that I think people are ultimately doing in their lives. They are growing so that they can compete to gain resources that allow them to be creative and have fun. And so that to me is what I got out of reading Ready Player One, was this idea of these intimate experiences, that you could do the bombastic fighting and combat and all that stuff, but that's not the only thing we want to do in life, right? So business for me is my pro athletic sport, and I happen to choose a sport where you don't physically age out. Whether I blow my knee or not, doesn't matter. I can keep building this business. So love that. Much longer careers in business, but I treat it like a game, right? And so money, sales, all that stuff, it's the score. Yeah. And so, okay, cool. I'm trying to do that thing over here, but I also want to make sure that I'm creatively engaged. And so I want to compete sometimes, and other times I want to take the fruits of what I've created to make something beautiful that other people can enjoy. And that's what we're trying to build into the game, is an ability to both compete, but by winning here, you get things that matter in the other parts of the game. And so we're starting with something that's called an extraction royale. So you're going and competing against NPCs, so what's known as PvE, and other people, known as PvP, so real people and computer-generated characters. Computer-generated characters have scarce resources. You're trying to get them before the other humans get them. If the other human has got it first, then you can always kill the other human and take their stuff. And so that creates a game loop that's just fun in and of itself. But the stuff that you collect also allows you to go do cool things in this other more creative part of the game.
Cool.
And we'll see. I'm not entirely sure that people want that game loop. So this is very experimental. And we'll see. We'll adjust as we go. But building it has been one of the most fun things I've ever done. That's
great. So then were you into video games before? What made you decide? I mean, you obviously had massive success with Quest. And then you have your podcast. You have your education platform. What made you decide to get into video games? Were you just a video game buff?
Yes, but everything that I've ever done in business has all been a ruse to build the next Disney. So
okay.
When
I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, I've been remarkably consistent. So when I was 12, I decided I'm going to be a filmmaker. I go to film school. I'm teaching film at one point, write a screenplay, gets turned into a feature film. Very horrible experience. I'm completely distraught.
Oh no.
And I met these two very successful entrepreneurs, and they said, look, you're coming to the world with your hand out. If you want to control the art, you've got to control the resources. So you should get into business and get rich, and then you can tell stories your way. I thought it would take 18 months. It took 15 years, but it worked. But in the intervening 15 years, everything changed. And so movies stopped being relevant. Video games ate the entire world. And so I realized, okay, the thing I really care about is storytelling. And I now have a why for my storytelling. In the beginning, I just wanted to tell stories because I thought they were cool. Now it's like, I really want to impart empowering ideas to people at scale through entertainment in the 11 to 15 year age range. And so when you look at that, you realize very quickly that games is so dominant a way to interact with people in that age group. It's just, you're wasting your time with anything else. And so about 3 years ago now, we dove into game development, just under 3 years. Dove into game development, really started building this out, realized I wasted probably a year and a half just being a total idiot, not having any idea what I was doing, but got my feet under us, and we now develop it probably 3 or 4 times the rate that we used to for, call it, a fifth the money. So it's been wonderful. But we have a long way to go. It would take us another, I'm going to guess, 3 years to have a game that's like actually the game I'm describing. Right now we just have pieces of it. So if AI doesn't make it all, just a thing that happens by a few clicks of the keyboard, we'll keep going. And I think we've got probably 5 years before you've got games being created like that, because there's so much of the progression logic that it will have to nail. I have a feeling that's going to be harder for AI. AI will get there, but it will be harder in the beginning.
How did you find people to come on board? Like, were you already kind of in tech? Did you like steal people from tech, or are these just random people that are not random, obviously engineers and developers, etc. But how did you locate those people?
So this is where having a YouTube channel that was designed to empower people really came in handy. And so I said, hey, I'm starting a video game company. We have a very strong thesis about how we can positively impact the lives of people 11 to 15. I'd been putting out content for years that was all about empowering people. And so people that had encountered my content and been like, yo, you really changed my life. They came on board. So we had people from Disney, from Blizzard, Riot Games, and they helped us build the world and create all the assets and nail down what kind of game this is going to be. It was really, really extraordinary. That was also the incredibly expensive period of my life. We have since trimmed the team down dramatically now that we have internal knowledge on how to do this. But yeah, that's how we got people in the beginning.
Okay, that makes sense. That's how we've got a lot of the employees for PA. Like everyone's been on board, mostly from following my dad, which is very helpful because people, especially when you're trying to bring something that doesn't exist into existence, it's like, hey, are you guys behind this idea? It's just an idea. Maybe it's a fantastic idea, but if you're not behind it, you can get one person in there that's like, this isn't going to work. We can't do this. It's too big. And they just poison everyone around them. It's crazy how ideas and businesses work when they're in their infancy. They're so fragile. You need to get people going.
It's a huge part of it that people don't understand. And this is why usually the person that starts the company is not the person that scales the company, because they are radically different skill sets. That maverick that can believe when nobody else can see it, and they can galvanize a vision. They can get everybody around them and believe we're going to do this. And that's how you get that mass of just incredible talent. But then as you start scaling and it's like, now we're just going to do this same thing over and over, rinse and repeat forever. And now it's, quarterly reports and how do we make this bigger? And our growth rate ticked down by 2%. What are we going to do? And you've got bureaucracy building into the company. It's crazy. We could literally do an entire series of episodes on scaling a business. It is insane.
Okay. Let's take Quest for an example. So you started that, but you also scaled it.
Yeah.
So you were the same person to do both, but then you sold it.
Yes.
So it wasn't like long-term you're running this and making it. But you said it was 15 years, right? Was that from its inception to selling?
So that was, so there were 3 of us that started Quest. We had a business before that in security software. So I'd start that clock back at the security software company. So,
what's your background?
Well, my background's filmmaking.
You said filming, yeah. But then you were in security?
Because I was like, I just need to get rich. I thought it was only going to take 18 months. Get into tech, baby. That's where you make your millions. Come on, meow. This was right after the .com bubble burst. So this is like 2003. Yeah, 2003. So in 2003, I start my journey in security software and think 18 months from now, we're going to sell this for millions of dollars and I'm going to go off and make my movies. It's going to be amazing. I used to sit before any movie. I would sit there with a calculator. Okay, if I get $7 million out of the sale, what's the interest on that? And like do all that. And okay, we could live off that. We could do a movie for $1 million. And so that was going to be the plan.
Yeah.
And then 18 months comes. Oh, I need another 18 months. That 18 months comes and goes. I need another 18 months. And then realize, okay, this is going nowhere fast, or at least I'm so unhappy. I don't want to keep doing this. I was worth about $2 million on paper. I go into my partners. I'm like, look, I can't keep doing this. I am so profoundly unhappy. My wife pulled me aside and said, I'm now damaging the marriage. I'm like, I just can't keep going. And they were like, hold on. We feel the same. Like, we're not having fun either. What would it have to look like for the 3 of us to keep working together? To make a very long story short, the answer ends up being Quest Nutrition. By then I had learned that no one could guarantee success, but I could guarantee the struggle. So I was like, okay, if I know I'm going to struggle, I want to stop asking the question that the internet is going to tell you to ask, which is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? That is a terrible question, because the most likely outcome of anything, even marginally big, is that you're going to fail. So I changed it to, what would I do and love every day, even if I were failing? And so for 3 very different reasons, we decided that we're going to found Quest. And I grew up in a morbidly obese family. So I was like, all right, I want to tell stories inside this company because I don't want to give that up. And hey, there's this new thing. We now call it social media. It was not called that back then. But this new thing is coming up. I can tell stories to that. We now say community. We didn't back then. So I was like, I want to build this community of people that I can tell stories to, their stories back to them, what we used to call mirror marketing. So I want to reflect them back to them. I don't want to, the first rule of Quest marketing is never talk about Quest. So it was like, we always wanted to talk about them and their journey, but we had a whole content division inside of a protein bar company. Now this is back in like 2010. So this was like,
that was smart.
Everybody was like, what are you guys doing?
That's
this is the most absurd thing ever.
And
so I was like, no, I need to do this to fill my soul. So to get the three of us to stay together, there were just all these weird stipulations. I'm only going to build something for 1,000 true fans, an idea I got from Kevin Kelly. I'm only going to do this if I can do storytelling inside the company. And so it just ended up being the right timing, understood social media, was able to scale it, grow it, all that stuff. But anyway, the clock starts at awareness, ultimately becomes Quest. We launched Quest in 2010, but we had been working on it since like 2008. And so launch in 2010, and then I exit in 2016. It was a absolutely crazy rocket ship of a ride. In our first 3 years alone, we grew by 57,000%. And that's in manufacturing. So that's not like a technology company where you can do infinite numbers with the same people. This was going from 3 employees to 3,000 employees, going from like 5,000 square feet to 300,000 square feet. I mean, it's just absolutely insane in 3 years. So it was insane.
How do you even hire that number of people in that amount of time?
You interview them in groups, and you have a very weird interview style.
Group interviews.
It was crazy.
So did you have a warehouse? You had your own manufacturing warehouses and everything?
We had to engineer our own equipment. So the big one of the big breakthroughs, and this will always go down as like one of the great things that made Quest, is we were looking at getting a co-manufacturer. And so we went to everybody and we said, hey, we want to make a protein bar that tastes like it has sugar but doesn't.
Yeah.
We can't figure out why nobody's done this before because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
And so we'd go to all these co-mans and they're like, oh, this bar can't be made. I'm like, what do you mean it can't be made? And they're like, it's not going to run through the machines because of the texture. And we're like, what? And so we end up looking at it, and the reason that nobody had made a protein bar that tasted like it had sugar but didn't is because the government subsidizes corn. And so we're like, this is the weirdest discovery of all time, because the government subsidizes corn, all the manufacturers make their sugar out of high fructose corn syrup. But high fructose corn syrup is like this liquid. When you put it into your product, it gives it a certain texture. So for the last 70 years, every piece of industrial equipment has been made with tolerances to match a product that uses high fructose corn syrup. So everybody that had this idea for the bar would go to these guys and say, hey, I want to make this on your equipment so we can do it at scale. And they would say, you need to add high fructose corn syrup. And then people would either go, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they would go make a bar that tastes like sawdust, or they would add the high fructose corn syrup, and now all the benefits that they wanted to have in the bar, they had none, but they could grow at scale.
Yeah.
And so when we saw that, we had the crazy idea of what if we became our own manufacturers?
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that idea at first and being like, yo, that's a hard left turn. Are we really because we literally had to engineer our own equipment. So we had to meet with companies that build this kind of stuff and say, hey, here's what we need. We need different tolerances, yada, yada. Got it, proved out on a really cheap, it was still quite expensive, but a very cheap, rickety setup that we bought in Canada. Went up, got the stuff, brought it back, re-engineered it ourselves to prove the model. It worked. And then we're like, okay, now we're going to go and like properly engineer this stuff. And so it just so happened that one of my partners was an Iowa farm boy, and with a Sawzall, he took the equipment used by people that use high fructose corn syrup, cut it up, welded it back together in a new way, allowed it to run our different product, and we were off to the races. And this is one of those stories I tell people over and over and over. This is why you have to think from first principles.
Yeah.
Because when we got to this bar can't be made, we asked the question, why? Where is it violating the laws of physics? Because if it's not violating the laws of physics, it can be made. And so we're like, there's no way this violates the laws of physics. And so we're like, oh, okay, this is a tolerance problem. It has to do with the high fructose corn syrup, all that. So we're like, cool. Now we know the path around it.
That's so funny. Okay, I had no idea about that whole manufacturing yourself part of Quest. That's very funny. I have a hangover supplement, not even close to like Quest level of large. But trying to get somebody to put it through machines without fillers was just like, yeah, we can't do it. It's like, what do you mean you can't do? Like, yeah, you can. There are certain things I can't do. Like, I can't fly to the moon. Yep. But what do you mean you can't do it? And it was, yeah, you need fillers so the machines run smoothly. And I was like, oh, okay. A lot about manufacturing I didn't know. That's funny about the corn syrup, though. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
This is why government regulatory bodies are very problematic in ways that people do not understand. The second and third order consequences are ridiculous.
That's wild. Okay. Well, Tom, thank you very much for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was wonderful to spend more time with you.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was very informative. Where can I direct people to go? Social media, podcast,
hit up
Videogame?
YouTube at Tom Bilyeu. If you're interested in Impact Theory University, you can ping me there or ping me on X, always at Tom Bilyeu.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks for having me.